Hello, everybody. UFC Wildcat here.
And Powder Blue Bolts.
And this week we are going to be talking about the Outback Bowl between the South Carolina Gamecocks and the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, South Carolina coming into the year having 2 losses on the year, one to Florida and one to LSU, so 2 of the SEC's top-tier programs. And other than that, they've actually had a very, very good year, led by their quarterback, Connor Shaw, and their other quarterback, Dylan Thompson. And Steve Spurrier has actually not announced who's going to start because Connor Shaw did get hurt earlier in the year, and Thompson did replace him. But Connor Shaw coming into this game has 1,700 yards through the year, 15 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. And Dylan Thompson's stats, 910 yards, 8 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. But really, any of these quarterbacks is a solid choice. I would say that.
Yeah, and I think Dylan Thompson did really well coming in and filling in at Clemson in the Death Valley. You know, he was 23 for 41, 310 yards, 56.1 completion percentage, and he also had 3 touchdowns and only 1 pick, while adding 38 yards rushing. So I think Dylan Thompson is a comparable backup. You know, Connor Shaw has been the starter all year, but if Connor can't go or Connor is having struggles, there's no fear because Dylan Thompson is a great backup.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that Connor Shaw is a year older than Dylan Thompson, and he, like I said, he's used to starting, so he brings leadership to these big games, like a big bowl game like the Outback Bowl against a good Michigan team. And we can't talk about South Carolina without highlighting their running back, Marcus Lattimore, who had a really, really good year. 662 yards rushing with 11 touchdowns, but as everyone knows, he did go down to the Tennessee game with a season-ending injury. Many thought it would be a career-ending injury. He tore all his ligaments, broke his femur, and it was one of the grossest injuries I've ever seen, honestly.
Man. It was very upsetting because you felt for this kid because this kid has put his heart and soul into South Carolina. He got hurt last year, getting hurt again this year. You just felt the pain, and unfortunately, he's decided to forego his senior year. He's going to go to the NFL. He's done. He's going to try and get whatever money he can. And you feel for this kid. I mean, he's worked hard. He worked hard to come back, and this happening again. It's really upsetting. But again, you know, they have a good backup in Kenny Miles. And you want to hit up on him a little bit?
Yeah, Kenny Miles replacing Lattimore. That's no easy task because Lattimore came into the year one of the top backs in the nation. But Kenny Miles having 358 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. I mean,
Time out. That was so funny because the way you were like, Kenny, like Cartman. Kenny,
I wasn't trying to do that.
That's how it came off. It was flipping hilarious.
But yeah, Kenny Miles is definitely, much like Thompson compared to Connor Shaw, a comparable backup. I mean, I'm not going to say he's better. I'm not going to say he's really, really that great. I mean, he is good, but I don't know. He's definitely a comparable backup. And as far as defense goes for South Carolina, their defense is awesome. 12th in the nation, only allowing 17 points a game. And their leader, Jadeveon Clowney, who actually recently said that he feels like he can be the first pure defensive player to win the Heisman next season.
And I really think he could. He's a very good player. You know, he works his butt off. He's getting sacks left and right. Definitely think Jadeveon Clowney will be one of the best players on the field. A first-team All-American selection, SEC player defense, or ACC, or SEC.
Defensive Player of the Year. He set single-season school records for sacks with 13, tackles for loss with 21.5, and he was only a sophomore, and he won the Hendricks Award given to the nation's top defensive end. So this guy will be in the backfield quite frequently for this Michigan team.
Yeah, but let's go to the other side of the ball, because Michigan's offensive line, they can stand up to this. They have allowed a Big Ten low 15 sacks on the year, which is pretty good.
It's impressive.
But, I mean, you have to factor in their amazing specialists, we'll say at this point, because Denard Robinson, very good player, started the season off at quarterback, but then they decided to go to Devin Gardner. When Denard has been playing quarterback, he has 1,300 yards on the season passing, 9 touchdowns, but has 9 interceptions. That was a real big problem for Denard. So, you know, they try to steer away from that. But they've actually put Denard a little bit at running back, and he's been doing very well with over 1,000 yards on the ground and 7 touchdowns. You know, I think Denard is going to be a really good player. But again, let's go back to the quarterback position. Devin Gardner. This guy's got to play phenomenal. He has over 1,000 yards passing, 800 or not 800. That's a lot of touchdowns. 8 touchdowns and 4 interceptions on the year. A better handler of the ball, which they're going to need with a bunch of like decent, They aren't really phenomenal, but they're actually good wide receivers. They've got Jeremy Gallon, Roy Roundtree, just to name a few. I think Michigan actually, their offense is pretty good, but we got to highlight some sadness because, again, we got more ineligible players as TJ Floyd, the starting cornerback, has been suspended. He will not be playing the game, nor will punter Will Hagerup and backup linebacker Brandon Hawthorne. This really hurts. They violated team rules. Hope didn't really specify what the rules were, but again, losing a good corner in TJ Floyd is going to hurt this defense, which actually ranks pretty high. They are 16th in points allowed with 18.8 points a game. And looking at their schedule, besides the Alabama glaring loss where they gave up 41, the most points that they gave up on defense was 31 against Northwestern, but that was also in overtime. Michigan, as we said, they had a decent year. Started out the season with a huge loss against Alabama. Definitely made a lot of people scratch their head. Then they went to Notre Dame. They lost 13-6. It was a close game, but Denard never really had him in it. He was throwing picks left and right. That's when they decided they were going to start trying to play Gardner a little more, and that actually worked, but then they went to Nebraska and lost 23-9, and at the end of the season, you lose into Ohio State, which gave Ohio State their perfect season. They lost 26-21, kind of a deflating loss, but again, I think Michigan can come back from this. Michigan's a good team, Devin Gardner's really good, and I really think the offense can actually manage a little bit, at least enough that the defense can hopefully, without JT Floyd, bring it up a little bit and stop the South Carolina offense. So there's my key. The defense has to step up, and Devin Gardner's got to play well. What does South Carolina have to do to win this game?
Well, I think South Carolina's got to really think about Denard Robinson and how he can hurt you in just about every single way. If they use him at quarterback, he can throw against you. If they use him at running back, he can run against you. And I think if they kind of focus on Denard Robinson, and because, if you let that guy get open, just give him a little bit of space, he'll hurt you. And if I'm Jadeveon Clowney, that's who I'm focusing on. And also Connor Shaw. With one of Michigan's starting corners being out, that might make it a little easier on him to kind of exploit this secondary and throw the ball downfield pretty well. So he's got to keep that in mind.
And that goes double for Dylan Thompson. Again, a younger kid who comes in. He's got to be able to, be on his P's and Q's and maybe actually do some work against a pretty, our defense that is losing a big key. So what's your prediction for the game?
I think it's going to be a pretty close game, actually. I think South Carolina is really, really good, but I think Michigan's kind of playing for, a little more because they came into the season ranked so high, and everybody thought they'd be really good. A lot of people thought they'd win the Big Ten, but it didn't really pan out for the Wolverines, and I think they're kind of playing for maybe next year to kind of get momentum and going into the 2013 season. So I think they have a lot more to play for than South Carolina. But I think South Carolina's still going to pull out with the win. I think it's going to be pretty close. I'm going to say 38-31 Gamecocks.
Nice. I think Michigan gets this game. I think, they kind of slide under the radar. Nobody's really been talking about them since that Alabama loss. I think Denard's a very good running back / if they put him at quarterback a little bit, which I doubt they will. Devin Gardner's comparable. And, if they can keep the rushing game going and maybe the defense can make a few plays, which is possible, because if we remember at the beginning of the season, South Carolina went to Vanderbilt and barely won that game. I think it'll be kind of similar to that. I think Michigan wins 14-10. It's going to be a very low-scoring game. And I think the Michigan Wolverines will pull out, adding some momentum to their next season. And hopefully we'll get some more good Michigan-Ohio State matchups, because I love those.
Yeah. I'm an Ohio State fan. I love the Buckeyes. But seeing them lose last year to Michigan, you never want to see your team lose. But we beat them 8 straight, and we won this year. So, it's not really a rivalry if you just win every single time. So getting a little competition back into it was nice.
But yeah, I really like that. Tune in next time. First BCS Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. The Rose Bowl game presented by Vizio. Wisconsin versus Stanford Cardinal. UFC Wildcat and Powder Blue Bolts signing out.